County Detention Center. 2:30 p.m., Judge Evelyn Carter sat on the cold bench, wrists cuffed, still wearing her worn running gear. "Hold still," Officer Briggs muttered as he fisted a handful of her curls and yanked hard. Her tight coils stretched painfully. "This isn't in your manual," she said quietly, voice low but steady. "Shut it." Electric clippers roared to life. Briggs dragged them across her scalp. Dark curls tumbled in messy clumps across the concrete floor. "Look at that nappy mess," Officer Delgado snorted, raising his phone to record. Evelyn's eyes filled, but her stare didn't waver. "You're making a serious mistake," she told them. "Only mistake was you running that mouth," Briggs replied, shaving another brutal strip. Evelyn focused on his body camera lens. Her voice stayed even despite the tears. "Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., she said. "You'll understand real consequences." The timestamp glowed 2:30 p.m. In 18 hours, their world would implode. "Comment if you've ever been disrespected by people in power," someone whispered from the holding cell, already streaming. "This ends with justice." 24 hours earlier, Judge Evelyn Carter stood in her chambers, smoothing the sleeves of her black robe. At 56, she carried a quiet, weathered authority earned from decades of battles inside and outside the courtroom. Her walls displayed an Ivy League law diploma, a prestigious federal clerkship certificate, and photos with senators who admired her unflinching integrity. Evelyn reviewed case files spread across her polished mahogany desk. Two heavy folders, State v. Delgado and State v. Briggs, contained disturbing documentation. Officer Delgado had racked up 18 complaints over 6 years. Officer Briggs had 15. Every single complaint had been dismissed, unsubstantiated, without serious inquiry. She studied their photos, stapled to witness statements. Delgado stood stiffly in uniform, smirking like the city belonged to him. Briggs stared at the camera with flat, predatory eyes that suggested he enjoyed his power. Tomorrow morning, both men would appear before her for sentencing on excessive force convictions. Her law clerk, Alex, stepped in with a fresh stack of motions and a steaming coffee. "Your Honor, the police union filed yet another motion for a change of venue," he said nervously. "They argue you might be biased against law enforcement." Evelyn looked up sharply, one eyebrow rising. "Biased how, Alex? Because I believe officers should obey the same laws as everyone else." He shifted awkwardly. "They didn't specify, ma'am, just claimed potential prejudice," Alex replied. Evelyn's phone buzzed with a text from her daughter, Lena. "Mom, please be careful near downtown today. Protests are getting intense around the courthouse." "Love you," Evelyn typed back quickly. "Don't worry, honey. Justice has a way of working itself out." Her fingers brushed the small digital recorder in her purse, a gift from Lena after anonymous threats started arriving about the upcoming sentencing hearing. Evelyn had initially laughed them off. Lately, though, the threats had become specific, almost intimate, mentioning her daughter, her jogging schedule, even the route she liked to take at lunch. Across town in the precinct locker room, Delgado and Briggs suited up with the lazy swagger of men, certain nothing could touch them. "You see who's doing sentencing tomorrow?" Delgado asked, buckling his vest. Briggs spat toothpaste into the sink and rinsed. "Judge Carter, another soft-hearted liberal." Delgado chuckled while checking his sidearm, shoulders loose with contempt. "These activist judges don't understand real police work," Delgado said. "They sit in their marble towers, judging split-second decisions they've never had to make." Briggs smirked. "We'll see how noble she looks if she ever ends up on our side of the bars." Neither man knew Evelyn planned to jog through downtown during her lunch break. Neither imagined her running route would cut straight past the courthouse plaza where demonstrators had gathered all week. They could not fathom who that middle-aged jogger really was. The courthouse clock chimed noon as Evelyn finished marking the last page of the sentencing memo. She changed into running clothes, breathable track pants, a faded university hoodie from her grad school days, and well-worn sneakers. On the steps, protesters filled Civic Plaza with handmade signs. Accountability or nothing. Law applies to you too. Badge immunity. News vans clustered at the perimeter, cameras hungry for conflict. Officers lined the sidewalks, riot helmets and shields transforming them into faceless enforcers. Evelyn stretched near the courthouse steps, glancing at her fitness tracker. She didn't know that at that exact moment, the police dispatcher was giving orders. All units, crowd control escalation authorized. Use aggressive intervention tactics if necessary. As she started jogging toward the plaza, protesters chanting and drums echoing, neither side recognized the other. The judge, who would soon determine two officers' fates, was moments from becoming their target. In her purse, the recorder rested quietly, waiting to log every sound. 1:30 p.m. Evelyn finished her warm-up loop and lengthened into her regular pace toward downtown. The afternoon sun stretched shadows across the courthouse steps, turning the plaza into a shifting pattern of light and movement. Her hoodie felt loose and familiar, her shoes whispering over the pavement. The crowd had swelled beyond anything she anticipated. Hundreds of people packed Civic Plaza, voices braided into one chant, "No justice, no peace." The call ricocheted off glass buildings like a drumbeat. Evelyn slowed, noticing her usual route cut straight through the thickest part of the demonstration. She pulled out her phone to search for an alternate path, thumb hovering over the map app. Without warning, a tear gas canister exploded 20 feet away, hissing like a snake. Acrid smoke blasted her eyes and throat. She coughed violently, dropping her phone. "Disperse immediately, or face arrest." A voice boomed through a megaphone. Delgado, though she couldn't yet place him through the chaos and sting. Evelyn blinked through tears, bending to grab her phone from the gritty sidewalk, lungs burning. The crowd surged as people fled the advancing police line, bodies slamming past her. She tried to angle toward the side street where her car was parked, but screaming, smoke, and ballistic shields turned the plaza into a maze. "You stop right there!" She spun around, vision blurry, to see Briggs striding toward her, hand hovering near his baton. Delgado trailed behind, moving with coiled aggression. "Officer, I'm just trying to get to my car," Evelyn managed between coughs, forcing her hands visible. "Hands where I can see them," Briggs barked. "You were throwing rocks at officers." Evelyn slowly raised her hands, confusion etched across her tear-streaked face. "I wasn't throwing anything. I'm a runner. I got caught when the gas..." "Turn around. Now." Briggs seized her arm and spun her toward a squad car. Her late-model sedan sat parked barely 50 yards away, excruciatingly close. "Officers, there's been a serious misunderstanding," Evelyn said, voice steadying despite the burning in her lungs. Delgado stepped nearer, his body camera capturing everything. To him, Evelyn's jogging clothes and tear-smeared cheeks fit perfectly into his mental file of problem protesters. "What's someone like you doing out here stirring up trouble?" Delgado sneered. "I have every right to be here. I was exercising," she replied. Briggs snapped open his cuffs with practiced ease. "Attitude already, I like that. Makes this more interesting." Evelyn didn't resist as he cuffed her hands behind her back, metal biting into her skin. Her purse slipped from her shoulder, spilling across the sidewalk. The small recorder tumbled out and rolled close to a storm drain, still quietly recording. "You're under arrest for disturbing the peace, resisting arrest, and assault on an officer," Delgado announced for the camera. "Assault?" Evelyn stared at him. "I never laid a hand on either of you." "You threw a rock," Briggs lied smoothly, barely blinking. Evelyn's jaw set as she watched false charges built in real time like a script they'd rehearsed. 38 years working in the justice system, and she was now living its ugliest corner from the wrong side. "Officers, I strongly recommend you confirm your information before you proceed," she warned. Briggs laughed, steering her toward the cruiser. "Oh, she's giving us advice now." You a lawyer or something, sweetheart?" Evelyn said nothing. Her silence unsettled them more than any outraged protest could have. "What's wrong, counselor? No clever comeback?" Delgado taunted. They shoved her into the back seat, the heavy door slamming shut with a final click. Out on the street, the dropped recorder kept running, capturing every word, every siren, every order barked over radios. Delgado's boot missed crushing it by inches as he turned back toward the scattering protesters. The trap was fully sprung. Justice itself was about to receive a brutal lesson in what injustice feels like from the inside. 2:15 p.m. The Sallyport doors at the county jail clanged open and shut with metallic finality. Evelyn sat in the back of the patrol car, hands numb from the cuffs, as Delgado and Briggs grinned at each other through the windshield, palms slapping together in a victorious high five. "Easiest collar all day," Briggs bragged. "Did you see her face when I called it assault?" "Priceless," Delgado snickered. Intake Officer Harris approached, shuffling standard forms, his expression already worn out. Demonstration days always meant overcrowded holding cells and endless paperwork. "What do we got?" Harris asked. "Disturbing the peace, resisting, assault on an officer," Delgado rattled off without hesitation. "Real piece of work. Thinks she's better than everyone." Evelyn stepped from the squad car with as much dignity as the cuffs allowed. Other arrestees watched from behind bars, mostly younger activists, some clutching their phones, hidden poorly despite repeated warnings. "Hey, record this," one whispered. "They're processing another one. Something feels off." Evelyn moved through intake step by step, fingerprints pressed in ink, profile and frontal mug shots, property bagged and labeled. She looked straight into each camera, into each officer's eyes, her composure unnerving. "Skip the medical on this one," Briggs told Harris. "Princess here doesn't need special treatment." "I have the right to a medical evaluation and a phone call," Evelyn said evenly. Delgado stepped close enough she felt his breath. "You have the right to keep your mouth shut." "Try that." Harris shifted uneasily behind his desk. Most people coming through here were hysterical, sobbing or screaming curses. This woman seemed oddly prepared, her vocabulary crisp, posture controlled. Something about her felt familiar. "Ma'am, we do have to conduct a contraband search," he said, almost apologetic. "Standard procedure." "I understand protocol, Officer Harris," Evelyn replied, cutting gently across his words. Her calm authority made him pause. Before he could process why, Briggs emerged from a supply closet holding electric clippers. "Yeah, and protocol includes a thorough hair search," Briggs announced, eyes glinting. "Could be hiding anything and all that." Evelyn knew that was categorically false. She had helped draft revisions to the county's detention standards years earlier. Hair shaves were strictly limited to violent felonies or specific health issues, not misdemeanor protest charges. "That is not standard policy for a disturbing the peace arrest," she said firmly. "It is now," Delgado lied smoothly. "New anti-terror measures. You protesters keep forcing our hand." Briggs stepped closer with the clippers, the buzzing blades inches from her curls. The gleam in his eyes was not professional concern. It was anticipation. Evelyn scanned the room quickly. 3 activists with phones pressed through cell bars, cameras in each corner, Harris looking increasingly uneasy. She did the brutal calculus in a heartbeat. "Proceed, Officer Briggs," she said clearly. Briggs grabbed a fistful of her hair, fingers aggressive and possessive, and yanked her head back as the clippers growled to life. Gasps echoed from the holding cells as the first long coils dropped to the concrete. "Yo, this is messed up," one activist shouted, phone raised higher. "Are y'all seeing this? Show's over. Phone's down or you get extra charges," Delgado snapped, sweeping his gaze across them. Evelyn's hair, carefully tended over decades, fell in thick spirals at Briggs's feet. 30 years of growth, she thought, a lifetime of care. Briggs worked in rough, uneven passes, grinning like he was dismantling a trophy. "Look at this storage space," he jeered. "Could have hidden a whole pharmacy in here." Delgado pulled out his personal phone and started filming, smirk widening. "Smile for the camera, Your Honor." He caught himself. "I mean inmate." The slip sliced through the room. Conversations collapsed mid-sentence. Harris's clipboard slid from his hand and hit the floor with a crack. Even Briggs paused, clippers still humming in midair. "What did you just call her?" Harris whispered, eyes wide, throat suddenly dry. Evelyn locked eyes with Delgado, her head half-shaved, yet her posture regal. "Careful, Officer Delgado," she said softly. "Your words carry weight." Briggs, clueless to the shift, resumed shaving, dragging the clippers across her already patchy scalp. "What kind of contraband you hiding in here, sweetheart?" he mocked. The stubble exposed her scalp in jagged islands. Evelyn lifted her voice so every camera and every phone could capture it. "Actually, Officer Briggs, you don't decide when this is enough." "I do." Something in her tone, a clipped edge of command, finally made him stop. The room felt eerily quiet. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to hum more softly. Evelyn turned deliberately toward the nearest security camera, eyes steady. "Every action in this facility is recorded. Every word you speak is documented. Every abuse of authority is preserved for review," she stated. Delgado's face had gone ashen. "What's that supposed to mean?" he asked, his earlier bravado leaking away. Her answer would haunt them. "It means that tomorrow morning, when the sun comes up, truth has a way of surfacing," she replied. "And justice, gentlemen, is on its way." 2:37 p.m. Harris's radio crackled with sudden urgency. "All units, APB on missing person. Judge Evelyn Carter failed to return from lunch. Last seen jogging near Courthouse Plaza." Harris's eyes shot to Evelyn, now in an orange jumpsuit, her head rough-shaved. His clipboard hit the floor again. "Oh, God! Oh, no!" he muttered, heart pounding. Delgado frowned. "What's your problem?" he snapped. Harris pointed, hand trembling, first at Evelyn, then at her booking sheet, then back at her. "Do you idiots have any clue who this is?" he demanded. Briggs still held the buzzing clippers, Evelyn's hair scattered around him like indisputable physical evidence. "Some protester," Briggs shrugged. "So what?" Harris's voice jumped an octave. "You just shaved the head of the Honorable Judge Evelyn Carter." Silence swallowed the room, heavy and absolute. It was the kind of silence that comes before explosions and verdicts. Evelyn didn't move. Her partially shaved head, now ringed by fallen curls, seemed almost like a crown. The orange jumpsuit couldn't diminish the authority radiating from her. Delgado's voice cracked like a teenager's. "That's impossible. She was at a protest. She was throwing rocks," he insisted weakly. Evelyn's response was measured, each syllable precise. "Officer Delgado, tomorrow at 9:00 a.m., you and Officer Briggs are scheduled for sentencing in my courtroom." The clippers slipped from Briggs's numb fingers and clattered onto the concrete beside Evelyn's hair. "But you were jogging. You were in regular clothes," he stammered. "I was exercising my constitutional right to peaceful movement and assembly," Evelyn replied. The activists in the cells suddenly understood, eyes widening. Phones emerged again despite every previous threat. "Yo, they arrested a judge," one shouted, already live streaming. "And shaved her head," another added, voice shaking. The story was no longer confined to concrete walls. Evelyn turned to give the security camera her full profile, ensuring her face, scalp, and jumpsuit were unmistakably captured. "For the record, I am Judge Evelyn Carter of the Superior Court," she declared. "Badge numbers 4187 and 3294 have violated my civil rights, fabricated criminal charges, and subjected me to cruel and unusual punishment." Harris scrambled. "Your Honor, ma'am, this is obviously some terrible misunderstanding. We can fix it right now." Evelyn's interruption cut like ice. "Officer Harris, The mistake happened earlier. The critical error occurred when these officers decided my appearance gave them permission to abuse their authority, she continued. Delgado fumbled for his radio, hands shaking. Dispatch, we need a supervisor at county jail. Code red. Nature of emergency? Dispatch asked. Delgado hesitated, swallowing. We've arrested Judge Carter. Static filled the channel while the operator processed that. Briggs lunged for any excuse. Your Honor, we didn't know. You didn't know, Evelyn cut in, because you saw a black woman in jogging clothes and claimed me as yours. That assumption reveals how you police this entire community. From the evidence locker, muffled by cinder block, Evelyn's phone began to ring. Her daughter's voice carried faintly through the wall. Mom, the news says you're missing. Please call me. In the holding cells, the live stream feed exploded. Y'all, this video already has 50,000 views, the young activist narrating the stream announced. Share this everywhere. Evelyn stepped closer to the bars, addressing the other detainees directly. Tomorrow, justice won't just be for me, she promised. It will be for every person these officers have demeaned, injured, or dismissed. Harris's radio erupted again with overlapping calls. All media units respond to county jail. City Hall requesting immediate briefing. Mayor's office on the line. The story was spilling out in real time. Unstoppable. By sunrise, people far beyond their city would know exactly what happened in this intake room. Evelyn simply folded her hands in front of her, spine straight, a judge even without her robe. 4 p.m., Evelyn's release paperwork moved faster than any file had ever moved through the system. The jail doors opened to admit Police Chief Nolan, Mayor Elise Grant, and Union Representative Victor Malone all at once. Evelyn sat in Harris's cramped office, her freshly shaved head covered with a thin county-issued beanie. Your Honor, on behalf of the department, Chief Nolan began, sweat already forming on his forehead. Evelyn raised a hand, stopping him with a look. Chief Nolan, save your apologies for open court, she said. Mayor Grant leaned forward, voice strained. Judge Carter, surely we can handle this quietly, through the appropriate channels. Evelyn's answer was calm but unyielding. Madam Mayor, this stopped being internal the instant it was live-streamed to hundreds of thousands of people. Social media detonated like a string of firecrackers. On one platform, you were Judge Carter shot to the #1 trending topic nationwide. Clips of the shaving spread faster than anyone could monitor. Civil rights organizations, legal commentators, and celebrities reposted the footage. One popular account wrote, "A sitting judge treated like a criminal for existing while black. This is systemic, not a glitch." Another page shared, "Officers Delgado and Briggs reportedly have dozens of prior complaints. Why were they still on the streets?" Local news scrambled. Breaking: Judge Evelyn Carter, allegedly arrested and assaulted by city police during protests, one anchor announced. Another outlet pushed the counter-narrative, asking if she'd been illegally participating in unrest. A national cable station aired the video of Briggs shaving her head, their host's voice shaking with outrage. At Union headquarters, Victor Malone faced a semicircle of microphones and cameras. "Mr. Malone, is shaving a misdemeanor arrestee's hair standard procedure?" one journalist demanded. Malone clung to his script. Officers Delgado and Briggs followed established booking protocols. Any accusation of misconduct is premature. "You're stating hair shaving is protocol. Can you show that written policy?" another reporter pressed. Malone shifted. No comment on ongoing matters. Meanwhile, 4 a.m., Evelyn sat on her living room couch with her daughter, Lena, the house eerily quiet despite the chaos outside. Lena, a civil rights attorney, wrapped an arm around her mother as the scarf slipped back, revealing the harsh, uneven shave. "Mom, they destroyed your hair," Lena whispered, tears streaking her cheeks. Evelyn's voice was soft but steely. Hair grows back, baby. Dignity doesn't break that easily. She exhaled slowly. They handed me something far more valuable than hair tonight. What's that? Lena asked. Evidence, witnesses, and the moral standing to demand real change, Evelyn replied. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Calls from national networks, emails from the ACLU, NAACP, legal coalitions. Lena, I need you to prepare a federal civil rights complaint, she said. I want every second of body cam footage, every slur, every lie, every constitutional violation on record. Lena hesitated. Mom, the media swarm will be brutal. They'll dig into everything about you. Evelyn nodded slowly. They made it public when they filmed my humiliation for entertainment, she said. Now we decide how the story is told. At the precinct, Delgado and Briggs sat in an internal affairs conference room with Union Attorney Brian Cole. The air felt heavy, like the moments before a verdict. Gentlemen, you're suspended pending federal and internal investigations, IA Detective Daniels announced flatly. Cole jumped in. My clients acted within policy, under stressful conditions. Daniels cut him off. They arrested a sitting judge and filmed themselves degrading her. Briggs snapped, voice rising. It wasn't an assault, it was a standard contraband check. We had no idea she was a judge. Delgado nodded frantically. Yeah, anyone would have made the same call. Daniels hit play on the security footage. Evelyn's composed warnings filled the room. Officers, I strongly recommend you verify your facts before proceeding. Then Delgado's mocking reply. Oh, she's advising us now. You a lawyer, honey? Side-by-side clips contrasted her dignity with their smirks and casual cruelty. Lighting was bad, Cole argued weakly. She was in civilian clothing. Any reasonable officer would have checked ID before stacking charges, Daniels said. Another recording played. Audio from Evelyn's recovered recorder at the protest. Her voice echoed, Officers, I strongly advise you to verify your facts before proceeding. Then Delgado's dismissive mockery again. Daniels folded his arms. Your clients ignored repeated warnings from a judge who was literally trying to stop this from happening. Cole rubbed his temples in defeat. Morning talk shows seized the story. One national program opened with Judge Evelyn Carter will hold a press conference today about her arrest and alleged assault by city police. Another reported, Justice for Judge Carter has been shared over 2 million times overnight. Legal experts lined up on panels. This could become a landmark case for police accountability, one commentator said. Back in her chambers, Evelyn prepared for the press conference while Lena scrolled through real-time analytics. Mom, this video has 8 million views and counting, she murmured. People in over 30 countries are talking about you. Evelyn adjusted a beautifully patterned head wrap, its deep colors framing her face. Good, she said. It's time the world saw how accountability really looks. Day 2. Her chambers had become a war room. Bouquets and handwritten notes from supporters cluttered every surface. FBI agent Lauren Price spread printed reports and digital screenshots across Evelyn's desk, while data analyst Kim projected slides onto the wall. Lena stacked legal documents, highlighters scattered around her. Your Honor, this isn't an isolated event, Agent Price began. We've been watching Delgado and Briggs for almost 9 months. Kim tapped a tablet and a city map appeared, speckled with red dots. Each dot represents an arrest involving one of them. There's a pattern, Kim explained. 73% of excessive force complaints connected to them involve people of color. They concentrate arrests in certain neighborhoods, despite being assigned to patrol the entire district. Evelyn studied the map, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Show me the money trail, she said. Kim opened a spreadsheet crammed with numbers and dates. Overtime abuse on a massive scale, Kim replied. Delgado claimed 90 hours of protest duty last month. Briggs claimed 78, but protests only lasted 6 hours that particular week. Lena frowned. So they're padding hours with false reports? Exactly, Kim answered. Your arrest fit their pattern, manufactured charges to justify overtime. A line item glowed. Delgado received over $3,500 in overtime the week after Evelyn's detention. Agent Price produced a stack of internal emails printed and highlighted. The cover-up started almost immediately, she said. On the screen, an email from Chief Nolan to Union Rep Malone appeared, time-stamped 2:30 a.m., the night of Evelyn's arrest. Contain this situation immediately. The Carter incident is a public relations disaster. Control the narrative at all costs. Malone's response followed, already contacting media allies. Can we allege intoxication? Nolan replied, negative. Body cam shows she's coherent. Push illegal protest involvement angle instead. Evelyn read the exchange, jaw tightening, eyes flashing. They tried to reconstruct my character in real time, she said quietly. Kim opened another file labeled Delgado and Briggs Complaints, 2019-2024. The victims, Kim said grimly. Photos and summaries appeared one after another. Jamal Rivers, 22, college student, arrested for looking suspicious while waiting at a bus stop. Had forcibly shaved during booking. Charges dropped. No internal review. Next slide. Elena Santos, 37, registered nurse, pulled over for a broken taillight. She was ordered out of her car, labeled uncooperative, subjected to a humiliating search in public view, Kim continued. The city quietly settled for $50,000 under a non-disclosure agreement. Another slide. Marcus Wright, 48, high school teacher, volunteer at a homeless shelter, arrested for interfering with police activity, suffered broken ribs during alleged resistance, currently in civil litigation. Evelyn's voice stayed steady. How many documented victims? She asked. 43 confirmed, Kim answered. Estimated total easily exceeds 200. Lena's laptop chimed as social media alerts poured in. Mom, you need to see this thread, she said, pulling up a long series of posts. A user named Jamal Speaks wrote, Judge Carter, they did the same thing to me in 2020. Shaved my head, called it contraband search. I was too scared to fight it. Thank you for standing up. Below, 100+ replies shared similar stories. Photos of shaved heads, bruises, tear-streaked faces. This is what they've been hiding, Lena murmured. On another platform, Elena Santos posted, I stayed silent because I thought no one would believe me. Watching Judge Carter stand tall after what they did to her gives me courage. Delgado and Briggs humiliated me too. Videos of people confronting old traumas spread rapidly. Some spoke from hospital beds. Others stood outside the precinct, holding up their settlement papers. Kim clicked to the next slide, excerpts from police union contracts, with dense paragraphs highlighted. Here's the machinery that kept them untouchable, Kim said. Clauses promised automatic legal defense for officers, mandatory arbitration for misconduct, limited access to disciplinary records, and rolling extensions of qualified immunity protections. Lena shook her head. They built a fortress around men like this. Evelyn stood, pacing slowly behind her desk, robe hanging on a hook by the door, like a waiting verdict. Not anymore, she said. She opened her laptop and began typing. I'm issuing orders for comprehensive case review. Every arrest those officers made in 5 years gets reopened. If they fabricated my charges, she continued, they fabricated others. We'll treat them like we treat any witness caught perjuring themselves repeatedly. Kim's computer chimed again. Your Honor, Delgado's full personnel file just came through, she said. Internal Affairs flagged him 12 separate times. He was never disciplined. 12? Lena repeated, incredulous. For what exactly? Excessive force, falsified reports, racial profiling, sexual harassment, Kim read. The department logged each complaint, then buried them. They knew exactly who he was. Evelyn's fingers tightened slightly on the edge of her desk, but her voice stayed controlled. "And Briggs?" she asked. Kim checked quickly. Similar pattern. Fewer complaints on paper, but overlaps with Delgado in key incidents. Always the same neighborhoods. Same demographic. Agent Price added, "We suspect other officers tried to avoid assignments with them. No one wanted to be on their partner list." Evelyn nodded once. "Then tomorrow, on the record, we start unspooling this system, brick by brick." Lena looked at her mother, eyes shining with a mix of pride and worry. "They tried to strip you of your dignity," she said. "Instead, they handed you the biggest case of your life." Evelyn gave a small, tired smile. "This stopped being about my hair as soon as they grabbed the clippers," she replied. "This is about every person who never had a platform, whose complaints died in a file cabinet." Outside the courthouse, cameras were already gathering like storm clouds. Inside, Evelyn reread her prepared remarks, sharpening each phrase until it felt like a carefully aimed blade rather than a blunt instrument. Lena organized witness lists, potential plaintiffs, and expert contacts. Agent Price coordinated with federal prosecutors. Kim updated the evidence board with every new name surfacing online. "We're not just preparing a press conference," Evelyn said quietly. "We're preparing a reckoning." She adjusted her head wrap once more, straightened her shoulders, and glanced at the clock. In minutes, the world would be listening. Across town, in a cramped conference room at Union headquarters, Malone paced in front of a muted television. Clips of Delgado and Briggs shaving Evelyn's head looped on every channel. "We stick to policy language," Malone insisted. "Stress uncertainty. Emphasize how chaotic protests are." Cole shook his head. "You can't spin a judge with half a haircut on camera telling them to check their facts, then getting ignored," he said. "That's not a narrative problem. That's a reality problem." At the precinct, rank-and-file officers watched the footage on their phones in uneasy silence. Some shut their screens when supervisors walked by. Others replayed Evelyn's calm warnings, hearing in her voice something they recognized from their own decent colleagues, and chose to ignore in the moment. "You hear what she said?" one young officer whispered. "You don't decide when it's enough." Another answered quietly, "We all thought we did." None of them missed the detail that Delgado and Briggs had filmed themselves, grinning. In neighborhoods where Delgado and Briggs had patrolled, residents texted, called, and messaged one another. "That's the same dude who slammed my cousin," one man wrote. "I told y'all they were dirty." A barbershop replayed the clip of Evelyn's hair hitting the ground. Chairs full, customers silent. "They went for her crown," the barber muttered. "Wrong queen." Community organizers compiled stories, building lists of people willing to testify. For once, the burden of proof seemed to shift away from the victim's shoulders. Back in Evelyn's chambers, the war room buzzed with synchronized purpose. "We'll need expert witnesses on police practices, union contracts, and trauma," Lena said, scribbling names. Kim added, "and a data visualization specialist. People need to see the pattern, not just hear it." Agent Price nodded. "We're already pulling historical complaint data from the entire department." Evelyn listened, then spoke. "We'll also need protection for the whistleblowers, because once this moves forward, the machine will try to eat its own." She paused, then added, "And I want every person who's ever filed a complaint against these officers to know this. The court is finally listening." Kim smiled faintly. "People are already calling you Judge No More Passes." "Online," she said. Evelyn chuckled once, humor dry. "I've heard worse nicknames." She shut her laptop and looked around the room. Her daughter, the agent, the analyst, each person carrying a piece of this weight. "All right," she said. "Let's go show them what accountability really means." When Evelyn stepped into the packed press room, the crowd of cameras and reporters rose like a single organism. Light flashes exploded, Microphones jutted forward. Her head wrap drew the eye, but so did her posture, tall, steady, unbroken. She began speaking, voice even, recounting her arrest not as a victim's sob story, but as a sworn officer of the court describing evidence. She named badge numbers, quoted policy, and most importantly, connected her experience to the names of people whose stories never made headlines. She ended with a promise. This is not about one judge and two officers. This is about a structure that has shielded misconduct from sunlight. That ends now. Questions erupted, but she took only a few, never letting the focus drift to gossip or speculation. When she walked back to chambers, the hallway outside the press room was lined with people, clerks, lawyers, even a few officers, who fell silent as she passed. Some nodded slightly. Others simply stepped back, making way. That afternoon, community leaders held their own press conference on the courthouse steps, playing Jamal's and Elena's testimony on loudspeakers. When they shaved Judge Carter's head, they showed us what they'd been doing to our dignity for years, one pastor said. The difference is that her title forced them into the spotlight. We intend to hold it there. Inside, federal investigators began issuing subpoenas. The city's legal department scrambled to inventory every case that might be tainted by Delgado and Briggs's involvement. In the union offices, lawyers pored over contracts looking for escape hatches. We can argue due process violations for the officers, one suggested. Maybe claim the investigation is politically motivated. Against a judge who literally warned them on camera, another replied. Good luck. The union's usual confidence felt strangely thin. For the first time in years, the protective language they'd negotiated seemed less like a shield and more like evidence of how long the system had prioritized their comfort over community safety. That night, activists projected the video of Evelyn's head being shaved onto the side of the police headquarters building. Vehicles slowed, people gathered on the sidewalk, phones raised. The image of her calm face beneath the clippers loomed several stories tall, impossible to ignore. Below the projection, someone painted in bold letters. She warned them. Officers inside the building lowered blinds, but the ghostly light still bled through the edges. The city could no longer compartmentalize the story into some distant, manageable corner. In living rooms and break rooms, families argued about the footage. Some insisted she should have just obeyed every command. Others countered that she clearly had. Some said, if they did that to a judge, imagine what they do to us. Kids watched their parents' faces more than the TV, learning whose side of history they'd stand on. In one apartment, Jamal stared at the screen, fingers running over the faint shadow of hair that had long since grown back. It's different now, he whispered. Elena sat at her kitchen table, rereading the non-disclosure agreement she'd signed years before. They bought my silence, she told her sister over the phone. Now I want it back. Her sister replied, maybe this judge is your loophole. Lawyers debated whether victims bound by previous settlements could testify about pattern and practice. Civil rights groups prepared to challenge the gag orders. For once, it seemed like the balance of power was shifting, even if only by a few fragile degrees. Back in Evelyn's chambers, the war room settled into a steady rhythm. Some staffers ordered coffee and takeout. Others built timelines, cross-referencing videos, emails, and report logs. We've got the night shift of the internet working for us, Kim joked, gesturing at the flood of incoming tips. Lena glanced at her mother, who looked exhausted but determined. You all right? She asked quietly. Evelyn nodded. I'm tired, she admitted, but I've never been more awake. She placed a hand over the head wrap. They thought this would humiliate me into silence, she said. Instead, it stripped away the illusion that following every rule always protects you. Lena squeezed her shoulder. You taught me that justice is a long game, she replied. Looks like we're deep in the middle rounds. Evelyn smiled faintly. Then let's keep our guard up. Outside, chants drifted faintly through the courthouse windows. A small crowd had gathered even this late, candles flickering, signs raised high under the streetlights. In a quiet moment between strategy sessions, Evelyn sat alone at her desk, staring at the original case files, State vs. Delgado and State v. Briggs. She remembered how, just 2 days earlier, these folders contained everything she thought she needed to judge them fairly. Now she knew they had only scratched the surface. She ran her fingers along the edges of the paper, then closed them decisively. Tomorrow, the courtroom would not just be a place of sentencing, it would be a spotlight. Outside, the city hummed with anticipation, anxiety, and fragile hope. Reporters rehearsed their live intros. Protesters organized carpools and made more signs. Officers checked their schedules, some dreading the coming shift more than any they'd worked before. In her small apartment, Lena set an alarm on her phone, then placed it face down. Whatever they thought yesterday was normal, she murmured to herself, tomorrow won't be. On the desk beside her lay a draft complaint, thick with citations and names. Back in her chambers, Evelyn switched off the desk lamp, leaving only the faint glow from the city outside. She stood for a moment, looking at the courtroom through the glass pane in the door, the bench, the witness stand, the rows of seats waiting to be filled. Her hand brushed the knot of her head wrap gently. Tomorrow, she whispered, we start. The recorder that had captured everything sat on her desk now, evidence ready to be played. The clock ticked toward dawn. Back at her desk, Evelyn kept typing judicial orders, jaw tight. This is bigger than 2 dirty officers, she said. This is an entire system shielding them. Lena's phone buzzed with alerts. Mom, look at this, she said. A cable headline screamed. Judge Carter's protest activity raises questions about neutrality. The piece painted her as an anti-police activist judge. They're turning you into the villain, Lena snapped. Evelyn's reply was tempered steel. Then we'll show them real villains. Kim swiveled her laptop around, eyes hard. It gets uglier, she said. Financial spreadsheets filled the screen. Delgado and Briggs aren't just violent, they're running protection schemes. Highlighted entries showed regular cash deposits, 500, 1,000, $2,000 at a time. Drug dealers, sex workers, illegal gambling houses, Kim explained. Pay-to-play immunity. Agent Price added, your arrest jeopardized their entire side business? A judge seeing their methods? They needed to obliterate your credibility. Evelyn scanned call logs, frowning deeply. They're not freelancing, she concluded. This is coordinated. Logs showed dozens of calls from Delgado and Briggs to other officers right after her booking. Kim nodded grimly. We've traced connections to 6 additional precincts. Your case kicked open a door we've been pounding on for years. Evelyn walked to the window, watching a fresh wave of protesters gather. Homemade signs read, Justice for all 43, and her courage, our freedom. She turned back. Agent Price, I want federal charges. Not just against these 2, Evelyn continued, voice firm, but everyone who protected them. Kim actually smiled for the first time in hours. Your Honor, that's exactly what we were hoping you'd say. Evelyn's computer chimed with a new message. Subject line, Delgado Briggs. Additional evidence. Sender, Officer Harris. The email was short, trembling on the screen. Judge Carter, there's something else you need to see. Something that changes everything. Evelyn exhaled slowly. Then we're not done yet. Day 4. 2 a.m., Evelyn shot upright in bed as her home security system screamed. Motion sensors lit up across her property map. She pulled back the curtain. A black pickup idled across the street, headlights cutting through the dark like watchful eyes. Heart pounding, she dialed 911. This is Judge Evelyn Carter. Someone's outside my home in a threatening way. The operator hesitated. Ma'am, are you sure it's not a police protective unit? I never requested protection, Evelyn replied. As she spoke, the truck's engine roared. Tires squealed, peeling away from the curb and vanishing down the block. When the silence returned, the smell of burned rubber still hung in the air. Evelyn stepped onto her porch cautiously and froze. Her mailbox was splashed with fresh spray paint, dripping under the porch light. 3 words, jagged and glaring: dead judge walking. Her hands shook, but her eyes stayed cold. 2:00 a.m., across town at Lena's apartment. Her phone rang non-stop, blocked numbers, distorted voices, cruelty wrapped in static. Voicemail 1. Your mommy should have kept her uppity mouth shut. Now the family pays. Voicemail 2. Nice little law office on Pine Street, Lena. Shame if anything happened there. Voicemail 3. Judges are replaceable. Accidents happen every day. Lena called her mother, voice trembling. Mom, are you getting threats too? Evelyn's answer was quiet. Yes, sweetheart. Are you somewhere safe? I'm scared, Mom, Lena admitted. They know where I work, what time I leave, everything. At the station, IA Detective Daniels and Agent Price pored over threat reports in a small conference room. The table was buried in phone records and typed transcripts. 67 threatening calls to the judge, Daniels said. 43 to her daughter. 2 meet our standard for credible death threats. Kim studied a linguistic profile. The wording uses police codes, internal slang, shift jargon. This isn't random. Someone in law enforcement is feeding these people information, Kim concluded. Daniels pulled up a new data sheet. Look at these outbound calls, he said. Delgado and Briggs are suspended, but not quiet. The logs showed 47 calls from them to active duty officers in the last 72 hours. They're still pulling strings, Daniels muttered. 9:01 p.m. That same day, Evelyn's clerk, Alex, left the courthouse garage, briefcase hugged to his chest. 3 men stepped from behind concrete pillars, faces in shadow. Alex, right? The tallest one asked casually. You work for Judge Carter? Alex's grip tightened. Yes, sir. Is there a problem? The man moved closer, tone smooth but edged. Depends what you call a problem. What's your boss planning for tomorrow's hearing? Alex swallowed. I can't discuss judicial proceedings with unauthorized people. A second man drifted behind him, quietly blocking the path. Kid, you seem smart, he said. Smart enough to know when silence keeps you breathing comfortably. Alex's keys rattled loudly in his hand. Are you threatening me? He managed. The third man smiled thinly. We're offering friendly advice. The judge is making dangerous enemies. Enemies who remember their friends and their obstacles. Alex finally got his car door open and slid inside, fumbling with the lock. As he slammed it, the first man leaned closer. Tell Judge Carter some cases are better left buried, he said. The parking lights flickered as Alex sped away. Next morning in chambers, Alex recounted every detail, voice still shaky. Evelyn listened, expression hardening into pure judicial steel. They're methodically isolating me, she said, trying to scare off anyone who stands beside us. Her inbox displayed over 300 hostile emails received overnight. Subject lines screamed, Black judges don't belong. Hang the race baiter. We know where you sleep. Evelyn's hands trembled slightly as she scrolled through the bile. Lena walked in with coffee and grim resolve. Mom, I hired private security, Lena said. The FBI strongly suggests you accept full protection. Evelyn shook her head. If I start hiding, they win the psychological war. Lena's eyes flashed. If you get killed, everybody loses. Evelyn opened her desk drawer and pulled out a sheet of paper. A typed resignation letter stared back at her. I drafted this last night, she admitted. Thought maybe stepping down would shield you from retaliation. Lena's voice cracked. Please don't, Mom. 43 victims, Lena, Evelyn said softly. If I walk away now, they stay buried. She highlighted the entire letter, then hit delete with a decisive tap. But continuing means they'll keep coming after you, she added. After anyone close to me. Lena opened her laptop and turned the screen. A crowdfunding page glowed. Justice for Judge Carter, Legal Defense Fund. The total read $847,000 raised in 72 hours. Thousands of messages poured down the page like a digital waterfall. Judges from across the country wrote, "Standing with you, colleague. Justice can't bow to threats." The ACLU's donation line showed $100,000. A note from an anonymous parent read, "My son was brutalized by these same officers. Please end this." Evelyn's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Courtroom tomorrow, 9 a.m. Come alone or your daughter gets hurt." Attached was a photo of Lena leaving her office that morning. Someone was watching every step. Day 5, 7 a.m. Agent Price strode into chambers with Officer Harris and a woman Evelyn hadn't met. Morning sunlight spilled through the newly installed bullet-resistant windows. "Your Honor, this is Detective Angela Reeves, Internal Affairs Undercover," Price said. Reeves, a black woman in her early 40s, carried herself with controlled fire. Her handshake was firm. "Judge Carter, I've been undercover for 2 years, building cases on corrupt officers," she said. "Your arrest finally blew my cover in the best way." Evelyn studied her carefully. 2 years is a long time to live a lie," she said. Reeves nodded. "I joined Internal Affairs specifically to target predators like Delgado and Briggs. You being arrested gave me the leverage I needed." Harris set a heavy evidence box on the desk, hands shaking. "Your Honor, there's something I haven't told anyone about that night," he confessed. "Something that changes everything." From his jacket, he produced a small USB drive. "My personal body camera has an extended battery," Harris explained. "It kept recording after official booking footage stopped." He plugged the drive into Evelyn's computer. The video showed the intake area after Evelyn had been processed and led away. Delgado and Briggs sauntered back in, assuming no cameras were running. "Did you see her face when I yanked her hair?" Delgado laughed. "Priceless." "These uppity ones need knocking down," Briggs replied. "Think she'll remember this in court tomorrow?" "What's she gonna do, complain to the judge?" Delgado snorted. Briggs snickered. "She is the judge, you idiot." "Not in my jail she isn't," Briggs said. "In here, I'm God." The audio was crystal clear. Evelyn's composure finally cracked. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "They knew," she whispered. "They knew exactly who I was." Reeves opened her laptop, switching the screen. "And that's not all," she said. "They're not just cops gone bad. They're running full-blown criminal enterprises." Bank records appeared again, this time layered with notes. "Drug networks, prostitution rings, off-the-books gambling," Reeves said. "They collect monthly fees for protection from arrest." "Your arrest threatened their entire revenue stream," Kim added. "So they filmed your humiliation as leverage, blackmail material if you ever pushed too hard." Reeves placed a second phone bag on the desk. "This is Briggs's burner," she said. Text logs scrolled. "Judge needs to be taught a lesson. Make it personal and painful." Another message read, "What about the daughter?" The answer, "Fair game. Scare them both." Evelyn's voice turned to sharpened glass. "You have proof they targeted Lena specifically?" Reeves nodded. "Photos, home and work addresses, commute times, their favorite coffee shop. An entire stalking operation involving multiple participants." Harris swallowed hard. "Your Honor, there's more," he said quietly. He opened another file from the box. Photos lined the screen, booking shots of women with freshly shaved heads, eyes red and hollow. 16 women in 2 years, Harris said. All booked through Delgado and Briggs, all documented as contraband hair searches. Evelyn stared at the pattern. Mostly young women of color, all conventionally attractive, all shorn brutally. "This isn't security," she said. "It's sexual predation, dressed up as procedure." Reeves nodded grimly. "It qualifies legally as sexual assault under color of law, and the department let it slide." The room fell silent as the horror fully settled over them. Lena entered with 3 people Evelyn didn't expect to ever see together. "Mom," she said, Meet your legal dream team. First, a seasoned attorney from ACLU National stepped forward. Judge Carter, I'm Anthony Rivera. Your case is now a flagship federal civil rights matter, he said. Next, Dr. Camille Jones from the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division extended her hand. We're opening a pattern and practice investigation into this entire department, she said. Finally, Professor Leonard Steele, a renowned constitutional scholar, nodded respectfully. We intend to pursue criminal charges against Officers Delgado and Briggs, Steele said, and also against Chief Nolan and Union Representative Victor Malone for conspiracy and cover-up. Evelyn looked overwhelmed. I wanted justice for one night of abuse, she said. Now it's become enormous. Lena touched her shoulder gently. You opened a door that's been sealed for decades, she replied. Rivera lifted his tablet, revealing a live feed from the courthouse steps. 800 protesters outside right now, he said. The camera showed signs reading, Justice for Jamal. Elena Santos deserves truth, and 43 voices, one bench. Lena tapped a volume icon. Jamal's voice rang out over the feed. Judge Carter, you saved my life by speaking up, he said. They shaved my head, shattered my trust in justice. But today, justice fights back through you. Kim's phone buzzed. Your Honor, she said, we just hit the jackpot. She projected a new document onto the wall. Email threads from Union Rep Malone to police unions nationwide filled the screen. Subject lines read, Managing Activist Judges, Seattle Template, Leveraging Personal Pressure. In one, Malone wrote to a Phoenix chapter, Seattle model works. Target them personally. Make them choose between family safety and the bench. Phoenix responded, Tried your strategy on Judge Rodriguez. She's recused herself from 3 police cases. Malone replied, Perfect. Fear works better than statute. Evelyn stared at the timeline, rage cold and precise. They've been running a nationwide intimidation machine, she said quietly. This isn't just about me. It's about every judge who dared demand accountability. Steele nodded. Your case is now about judicial independence across the country, he said. Kim's radio crackled. All units be advised, a voice announced. Federal arrest warrants issued for Officers Delgado and Briggs, Chief Nolan, and Union Rep Victor Malone. Charges include conspiracy to violate civil rights. Evelyn watched news vans massing outside, antenna masts rising. Your Honor, Lena said softly, standing beside her at the window, the whole world is about to watch justice work in real time. Day 6. Evelyn's case detonated across social media. The hashtag Dadir Judge Carter evolved into Dabur End Police Abuse, trending globally within hours. One judicial coalition account posted 312 judges nationwide stand with Judge Carter. Judicial independence is non-negotiable. A major civil rights group wrote, when they target a judge for doing her job, imagine what they do to everyday people. TikTok turned into a virtual rally. One viral video showed a young woman in a robe, POV style. You're Judge Carter walking into court tomorrow, she said, sliding on a mock gavel necklace. 12 million views. Another trend had women of all races shaving or trimming their hair in solidarity, captioned, Hair grows back, justice is forever. Millions more views. A third clip featured someone reading the newly issued warrants against Delgado and Briggs in an overdramatic bedtime story voice, the comments exploding. On the courthouse steps, 2,000 protesters gathered, organized and resolute. The crowd stretched 6 blocks, chants rolling like thunder. Jamal addressed them from a portable stage, his justice beanie pulled low. They cut Judge Carter's hair to humiliate her, he shouted. They cut mine to break me. But look at us. We're still here, still standing. The crowd roared. Elena Santos stepped forward with 12 other women behind her, all past victims of these officers. For 5 years I was too ashamed to speak, Elena said, voice trembling but strong. They made me feel dirty, powerless, small. Judge Carter showed me the shame belongs to them, not us. The crowd applauded fiercely. Marcus Wright spoke next, his teacher's cadence carrying. These officers didn't only harm our bodies, he said. They attacked our belief that justice was real. Across the country, solidarity marches formed in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta, some doubling as voter drives. Live streams shattered previous records. One network's live coverage drew over 2 million viewers. A social platform stream hit nearly 5 million. Another topped 8 million simultaneous viewers. Short clips circulated endlessly. Jamal's speech, Elena's tears, Evelyn's composed press conference. At Union headquarters, Malone tried to slip out a side door. Reporters surged toward him. "Mr. Malone, how do you respond to proof of coordinated harassment against a sitting judge?" one shouted. "No comment," he barked, pushing past. "Did you advise unions nationwide on how to intimidate so-called problem judges?" another reporter demanded. "These allegations are baseless," Malone snapped. "Sir, your own emails say, 'Fear works better than law,'" a third called out. Malone dove into his car as protesters encircled the lot chanting, "Resignation, prosecution, justice." That evening, Evelyn sat in her living room flanked by Lena and 2 protective officers, multiple news channels muted on the screen. Each showed a different angle of the courthouse protests. One anchor said, "Tomorrow's sentencing could redefine police accountability in America." Another declared, "Judge Carter's courage has galvanized a new civil rights wave." A third insisted, "Critics say her case has morphed into a political circus." Evelyn muted everything. "Tomorrow isn't about politics or hashtags," she said. "It's about the law." Lena studied her mother's face. "Mom, you've become a symbol," she said quietly. Evelyn touched her head wrap. "Symbols fade. Justice, if we do it right, outlives us." Her phone showed 47,000 unread supportive messages. A text popped up from Supreme Court Justice Elena Kaplan. "Evelyn, the federal judiciary stands with you tomorrow." An email from former Attorney General Eric Holden read, "Your bravery reminds us why we serve justice, not power." A message from the Mandela Foundation chimed in from South Africa. "Your strength echoes the courage of freedom fighters everywhere." In separate cells at County Jail, Delgado and Briggs watched the coverage through grimy windows. "How many are outside?" Briggs asked a guard. "Last count, 25,000, and it keeps growing," the guard replied. News helicopters circled overhead like steel vultures. "Think she'll go easy on us?" Delgado called across the hall. Briggs let out a bitter laugh. "Are you insane? We're done. This is our legacy now." Near midnight, Evelyn's phone rang. Caller ID displayed one word: White House. Lena's eyes widened. "Mom," she whispered, "that's the president." Evelyn answered with measured calm. Day 7, sentencing day, 8:30 a.m. Security lines wrapped around the courthouse as crowds passed through metal detectors, bags searched, signs inspected. Every major news outlet broadcasted live from trucks parked bumper to bumper along the streets. Protesters filled nearby blocks, singing, chanting, praying. Courtroom B overflowed. Overflow rooms streamed proceedings on large screens. At exactly 9 a.m., Evelyn walked in, wearing her black robe and a rich kente head wrap over her still short hair. The entire courtroom rose in charged silence. "Court is now in session," she said. State Ver Delgado and State Ver Briggs. Both officers sat in orange jumpsuits, shackled at wrists and ankles, their pricey defense attorneys framing them like expensive armor around hollow men. Defense counsel Brian Cole stood immediately. "Your Honor, we move for recusal," he announced. "Your personal involvement and clear bias disqualify you." Evelyn's answer was swift. Motion denied. "As the victim of these defendants' crimes, I fully grasp their impact." The gallery erupted in applause. Evelyn's gavel cracked 3 times. "Order," she said sharply. "Before sentencing, this court will review evidence of a sustained pattern of abuse." Agent Price controlled the courtroom screens from the prosecution table. "Exhibit A," Evelyn said. "Body camera footage of my arrest and assault." The monitors showed tear gas, shouted commands, Evelyn's hair being hacked away. Delgado's voice echoed, "Smile for the camera, Your Honor. I mean inmate." Gasps rippled through the room. Briggs flinched visibly. "Exhibit B," Evelyn continued. "Financial evidence of overtime fraud totaling $137,000. Spreadsheets appeared, detailing falsified hours over 3 years. Exhibit C," she said, "proof of a coordinated harassment campaign against my family." The screens displayed Briggs's text messages. "Judges need to be taught a lesson. Make it personal and painful." Then, "What about the daughter?" "Fair game. Make them both terrified." Lena gripped Evelyn's hand at counsel table as her own terror became public record. "The court will now hear victim impact statements," Evelyn said. Jamal approached the podium, posture steady, despite shaking hands. "Your Honor, in 2020, Officer Briggs shaved my head," he said. "He claimed it was for gang identification. I was a straight-A college student with a scholarship." Elena followed. "Officer Delgado strip-searched me during a traffic stop," she said, tears falling. "Said my nurse scrubs could hide weapons. 40 strangers watched. I wanted to disappear." Marcus spoke last, voice unwavering. "These officers didn't just bruise our bodies," he said. "They shattered our belief that the system could protect us." 16 victims in total testified, each story a fresh wound opened in public. Then Evelyn said, "Exhibit Z, audio from Briggs's personal device." Silence fell thick as the recording played. Bar chatter, then Briggs's voice. "Best part was she thought her judge act could scare us. Judge or not, she's still just another—" Evelyn cut the audio before the slur completed. The unfinished word hung heavier than if spoken. Briggs leapt up. "Your Honor, that's completely out of context," he protested. Evelyn's gaze was arctic. "Officer Briggs, you and Officer Delgado have shown this court exactly who you are. Racist, corrupt, predatory," she said. The moment had come. Evelyn rose from the bench. The room quieted as if someone had cut the air itself. "Officer Delgado," she began, voice ringing clearly, "please stand for sentencing. For civil rights violations, assault under color of law, fraud, and conspiracy," she said. "I sentence you to 8 years in federal prison without possibility of parole." Delgado sagged into his chair, color draining from his face. "Officer Briggs," Evelyn continued, "for those same offenses plus documented sexual assaults disguised as searches, this court sentences you to 12 years in federal prison." Briggs exploded. "This is a public lynching," he shouted. "You can't do this." Evelyn's reply was deadly calm. "What was done to me was an assault," she said. "What I'm doing to you is justice." The courtroom erupted into a standing ovation, tears, applause, relief crashing together. Evelyn let it swell for a heartbeat, then struck her gavel. "This court is adjourned," she said. Outside, 30,000 people roared as word of the sentences reached the crowd. Screens in plazas across the country flashed the headlines. Live stream counters soared, 47 million viewers worldwide, comments and shares spinning upward. Global reactions rolled in immediately. A London paper's headline read, "American Judge Shows True Courage." In Johannesburg, a front page declared, "Justice Triumphs in Seattle." In Tokyo, broadcasters said, "Black Judge's Bravery Inspires World." As Evelyn stepped from the courthouse, she paused at the top of the steps. Cameras zoomed in. Slowly, deliberately, she removed her head wrap, revealing her shaved head to the world. Reporters surged closer. "They tried to strip my dignity," she told them. "Instead, they exposed their own disgrace. A journalist called out, "Your Honor, what happens now?" Evelyn's smile was velvet over steel. "There are 41 other victims whose cases still demand justice," she said. "This court will see them." Her phone buzzed with a new message from the Justice Department. "Judge Carter, we need your input immediately. Nationwide police reform legislation is being drafted. Signed, simply, Attorney General." Evelyn exhaled, feeling the weight shift from one courtroom to many. 3 months later, a different camera panned across a federal prison hallway. Delgado and Briggs, now in standard issue orange, mopped scuffed floors. "Should have listened when she told us to check our facts," Briggs muttered. "We've got 8 and 12 years to reflect," Delgado replied bitterly. Back in Evelyn's chambers, the atmosphere had transformed. Her hair had grown into a soft, short natural. Her walls were covered with thank you letters and drawings from kids, pinned beside citations and legal awards. On the news, anchors discussed the newly passed Carter Police Reform Act, named in her honor. The law mandated body cameras, independent civilian oversight boards, and automatic federal review for serious civil rights complaints. At Seattle Police Headquarters, Chief Nolan's nameplate was gone. A new one read, "Chief Angela Reeves." At a press conference, Reeves said, "This department will regain trust not with slogans, but with clear accountability." Jamal crossed a graduation stage, his cap decorated with glittering words. "Justice served." Elena accepted an ACLU Courage Award, holding a framed photo of Evelyn. "Judge Carter taught me," she said, "that dignity can't be shaved away." Marcus taught a new class titled Constitutional Law and Police Accountability. His first slide projected an image of Evelyn on the bench, kente head wrap and all. In a final televised interview, a host asked Evelyn, "How has this changed you?" She touched her close-cropped hair. "They thought they were cutting my hair," she said. "Really, they were cutting chains that protected corruption." "Any regrets?" the host asked. "Only that it took my assault to expose what communities of color endure every day," she replied. "What's next for you?" Evelyn smiled faintly. "Same as always," she said. "Justice every day for everyone I can reach." On screen, statistics appeared. 347 officers prosecuted nationwide, $47 million paid to victims, 89% public approval for the reforms. Behind each number were real faces. Evelyn walked into her courtroom again, robe flowing, head held high. Today's head wrap bore embroidered words, "Justice served." The narrator's voiceover, now familiar to millions who had followed her story online, wrapped up the episode. If you believe in accountability, stick around for more stories where justice actually shows up. Graphics urged viewers to share their own experiences with law enforcement. Yet beneath the streaming aesthetics, something deeper was happening. People were learning what real judicial courage looked like. Evelyn's phone rang once more. The display read, "International Criminal Court." She stepped into her chambers and answered. "Judge Carter," a voice with a European accent said, "we're facing entrenched police brutality in several countries. We'd value your expertise." Evelyn glanced at the piles of new case files on her desk, local, national, now international. She smiled, tired but ready. "Tell me where you need me," she said. The screen faded to black as text appeared, teasing the future. "Judge Carter, International Justice. Part 2, coming next week," the outro promised. Hit subscribe and notifications so you don't miss how one judge keeps pushing the line forward. Viewers around the world watched the credits roll, some with tears, some with clenched fists, many with newfound resolve. Somewhere between fiction and reality, one shaved head and one fearless voice had turned humiliation into a blueprint, showing exactly how fast the world can change when justice finally refuses to look away. As the episode's credits rolled, the screen shrank to a corner box, showing Evelyn stepping out of the courthouse, replayed in slow motion. Around it, Bright end cards popped up. Full timeline of the Carter case. How police unions shield bad cops. Behind the bench. A narrator's voice returned one last time. If you believe accountability shouldn't be rare, it said, share this story. Someone you know might need to see it tonight. A replay of the live chat scrolled past in blazing color. I'm a public defender. This is my clients every day, one comment read. Watching from London, crying, said another. Former cop here, someone else wrote. Good officers need judges like her. Jamal's username appeared with 3 flame emojis and a simple line. For every kid they said looked suspicious. We're still here. The chat slowed, then exploded again with heart emojis. In a dim studio, the documentary's host sat at a cluttered desk, surrounded by sticky notes and case files. Off camera, a producer asked, "You think people will stick around for part 2?" The host smirked tiredly. "They already have," she said, pointing at a monitor showing viewer counts still climbing. We've been following Judge Carter for over a year. The international cases she's walking into, that's a whole different battlefield. Across town, Lena sat cross-legged on her couch, laptop balanced on her knees. Her inbox overflowed with messages from survivors worldwide. Your mom's story made me tell my own. Read one email from Brazil. Another, from a teenager in Chicago, said, I thought nobody would believe me until I saw her. Lena scrolled slowly, overwhelmed, feeling the weight of every story and the fragile trust threaded through each paragraph. In her quiet chambers, long after cameras had gone, Evelyn ignored the glowing tablet on her desk and opened a worn shoebox of letters instead. She picked one at random, a hand-drawn card from a third-grade class. Crayon figures held signs. Fair judge. Thank you. We believe you. A tiny stick figure with a crown of short curls stood in the middle. Evelyn laughed softly, then wiped at tears she hadn't realized were falling. A soft montage unfolded on screen. Jamal, now in his first semester of law school, debated use of force doctrine in a crowded classroom. Elena handed paperwork to a woman at a community clinic, her badge reading Victim Advocate. Marcus stood before a packed town hall, projecting slides about constitutional rights. Over all of it, Evelyn's earlier words echoed faintly. Justice isn't a moment, it's a practice, repeated until it finally sticks. News segments spliced in, city councils passing oversight ordinances, state legislatures arguing fiercely over the Carter Act's implementation. Some sheriffs welcomed the reforms. Union spokespeople went on air predicting chaos. One commentator sneered, "This judge let emotions rewrite policy." Another countered, "No, she forced the law to live up to its promises." Viewers watched chiefs sign new disciplinary rules while scrolling hashtags urged, "Pass it here next." The debate had spilled far beyond Seattle. Inside a crowded union hall, rank-and-file officers argued under buzzing fluorescent lights. "I'm not protecting predators," one veteran said sharply. "I've got kids in this city." Another slammed his fist on a table. "They're making examples out of us," he complained. A younger officer, the one who'd quietly turned off his phone during Evelyn's hearing, finally spoke. "Maybe being an example isn't bad," he said. "Maybe it means we finally stop pretending none of this is real." International footage cut in. Marchers in Johannesburg carrying signs reading, "Carter Courage." Protesters in London chanting, "No justice, no peace." Crowds in Sao Paulo holding up photos of their own local victims beside Evelyn's image. A South African attorney told a reporter, "Her case is American, but the pattern is global." In Madrid, someone spray-painted on a wall in English, "If they can shave a judge, what will they do to you?" Back home, Evelyn slipped into a modest community center. No press invited. Folding chairs formed uneven circles. A man with shaky hands described a beating from 20 years ago. A woman confessed she never filed a complaint because, "Who'd believe me?" Evelyn didn't speak for a long time. She listened, taking notes. When she finally answered, her voice was low. This movement is not about me, she said. It's about you and what you deserve. Later that week, Lena dragged a small suitcase into her mother's hallway, a passport tucked out of her pocket. The Hague isn't exactly around the corner, she joked weakly. Evelyn smiled. Injustice isn't either, she replied. It just feels closer because someone finally turned the lights on. Lena hesitated. Are you sure about this, Mom? Another fight? Another target on your back? Evelyn adjusted her blazer. I'm sure about who I am, she said. That's enough. On the overnight flight, cabin lights dimmed. Evelyn opened a leather-bound journal Lena had given her after the trial. She wrote in careful looping script. Day 1. New courtrooms, same old ghosts. Outside the window, city grids shrank into darkness. She touched the faint scar on her scalp where the clippers had bitten hardest. It tingled in memory, then faded beneath something stronger, a stubborn, steady faith that this pain hadn't been wasted. Dawn spilled across the clouds as the plane descended over gray water and compact European rooftops. The camera panned to a sleek glass and stone complex, an international tribunal buzzing with translators, advocates, and exhausted clerks. Inside, officials briefed Evelyn on cases, protesters gunned down, detainees vanishing, officers shielded by laws even older and thicker than back home. She listened without flinching, pen tapping thoughtfully against her legal pad, already cataloging what questions to ask first. In a quiet viewing room, staff queued up foreign body cam footage. On screen, an officer shoved a young woman to the ground, shouting in a language Evelyn didn't know, but fear sounded universal. Another clip showed a man dragged from a car, begging in subtitles no one had heeded in real time. Evelyn's jaw tightened. It felt horribly familiar. The angle, the arrogance, the assumption of impunity. All right, she said softly. Let's get to work. The narrator returned over a sweeping map of the world, red dots multiplying across continents. One judge, one case, one shaved head, the voice said. It wasn't enough to fix everything. It was enough to prove something was broken beyond denial. Brief graphics summarized reforms passed, oversight boards created, bad actors charged. Then the screen flashed a lingering message. This story is not finished. The law only changes when people refuse to look away. Back in the documentary's editing bay, producers clustered around a whiteboard covered in scribbled locations: Lagos, Rio, Budapest, Manila. Arrows connected stories of paramilitary-style policing, political repression, disappearing evidence. Part 2 can't just be about Evelyn, one editor said. She's the thread, not the whole tapestry. Another nodded. We follow the pattern. Show how her playbook works or fails when the rules shift. Someone circled the words in bright marker. International justice. The host faced the camera again, this time with no dramatic lighting, just a simple, honest shot. Look, she said, we know these stories are heavy, but pretending they're not happening doesn't make anyone safer. She leaned forward. If something in Judge Carter's fight reminded you of your city, your school, your station, talk about it. Organize around it. Film it. We'll keep telling these stories. You decide what happens where you live. The final scene returned to Evelyn walking down a long courthouse corridor, this time in the International Building. Her footsteps echoed softly. Over the image, overlapping audio played. Protesters chanting, "No justice, no peace." A gavel striking wood. Jamal saying, "We're still here." Elena whispering, "Shame belongs to them." Lena's voice promising, "You're not alone." As Evelyn pushed open the courtroom door, the frame froze, capturing her mid-stride, eyes focused on something beyond the viewer. White text slid over the frozen frame. If you've experienced police abuse or state violence, you are not alone. Beneath it, smaller lines appeared. Hotlines and resources are linked below. Reach out, tell your story. You deserve to be heard. The music faded to a quiet, insistent beat, the same rhythm that had pulsed beneath the entire series. A small logo appeared in the corner, a stylized gavel wrapped in a laurel branch. The image shrank into a thumbnail as a bold banner splashed across the screen. Judge Carter, International Justice, Part 2, premieres next week. Buttons popped up. Set reminder, watch full Carter case playlist, how to demand reform in your city. The narrator spoke one last time. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications, not just for this story, for every time someone, somewhere, decides enough is enough. The beat cut, screen to black. For many of us in our late 60s and beyond, Judge Evelyn Carter's story is a hard reminder that dignity can be stripped in seconds, even from a woman in a black robe. Yet it also proves something stubborn and beautiful when we stand firm, speak clearly, and refuse to be shamed. Even a shaved head can become a beacon that exposes corruption and pushes a whole system to change. After hearing how Judge Carter turned humiliation into a turning point for the whole country, what speaks most to you as someone who has already seen so many chapters of American history? Do you feel more hopeful, more angry, or a mix of both? Tell me in the comments, share your own story, and remember to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter.